So now I'm drilling a hole for the servo arm to fit through. Ultimately there's going to be a boot on here. So I've marked this out carefully, as you've seen, and now I'm just putting this in. I'm not too worried about this because between adjusting the rod and making the hole bigger and possibly moving the hole, I mean, there's nothing really that I can ruin here. So I've just taken the top off, drilled it through, and as you can see now very quickly getting that back on again. And now what I want to use is the piece of rod that's going to, look at that, it's a perfect match up to the end of that servo. It's almost perfect. It just needs a little kink at the top, I discovered, but everything else is practically okay. Now this one for the diving plane is just as good. It's a bit sickening that I've done it so well on the first attempt. I was expecting that it might not come off quite as easily, but in fact it has. Now the result of this, of course, is that there's going to need to be some adjustment of these and some playing just to get it about as right as I can. So at this point I'm putting on the rudder and I'm just testing it out now. It's connected up, and believe it or not, it's working pretty well first time around. That is a little bit unbelievable. Every now and again things work really, really well. That's nice. Happy with that. So I've put a little kink in that rod now, as you can see. That is now working, I think, about as close to perfect as you can be. The boat isn't going to turn easily. It's going to have a wide turning circle. Now I'm just testing out the how well this fits inside the watertight container. And I've actually reduced, as you can see, one notch in on there just to make it clear a little bit better. There's a bit of a wobble on this, and I'm going to have to fix that in some way at some point. Not sure how that's actually going to happen. But now I've put some brass tube in there, which is just the right size to fit the rubber bellows. And while I'm doing that now, I'm just looking at the prop shafts and so on, and I'm going to turn them on, and I think this is about the first time I've had them running. Pretty exciting stuff. Really quite powerful. There's a bit of vibration in that one, and there's also some play in it, which I do need to fix. But this is now nearly complete. It's all in place. Alright, we're now testing the stern drive unit. I've connected up a speed controller here because the one I want is not here yet. I've turned it all on and worst comes to the worst, I can always use this one. It's okay. It's alright. Starboard, port, dive, surface. That's all working really well. It's all working. Fantastic. Of course, this is all direct drive. Makes it very interesting. Pretty good. This is starting to come out. I have to fix that. Alright, good. Alright, the next step is to try and put some kind of connection between here and the top to hold it down. Now this will mate up to the end of here. I'm going to trim those screws back so that it fits back. The problem with the pump is it overlaps into the past the center line, which means that this that I used to use is useless. I can't connect this to the top. So I think what I'm going to do is use a piece of Perspex, and I'll bend a little part at the bottom that I can bolt down onto the base. It will hold this in place, and not only will it do that, it will also have a bolt that will come up here that I can bolt the top down to. That's all it needs. Very light. Okay, that's it. So this is a bit of a revelation to me about how easy it is to work with Perspex. Now this is 6mm Perspex and quite thick, and as you can see I'm using a naked blowtorch straight on it. The reason I'm holding it and can do so successfully is because it doesn't transmit the heat very well, which is also one of the reasons why I have to turn it over in my hand all the time to get both sides hot, because it really doesn't go through all that quickly. And I discovered also when I cool it off, it doesn't cool all that quickly. Even putting it in water to quench it is not a super way of getting it fixed. I'm just testing it now, and no, we've got a bit more to go. So it's interesting. You can't really do much damage. It won't blow up, and it might catch a light, as it does, I think, in a moment or two. But ultimately, you'll get it to the point where it's soft and malleable, and then you can do with it as you wish. And as you can see, I'm still holding the end. If this was metal, I'd have dropped it by now. It would be boiling hot. So it's caught alight for a little bit, and I'm not particularly worried. And it's still not soft enough. It's 6mm, you see, so it really is quite thick. But that's getting there now. I can feel that starting to go. So I'm going to put that in the right place, use a bit of cloth to help it get into the right position, and now I've got this lovely block of brass I'm using. That's partly because it's a nice square shape, also because it's cold and helps it set. So this is now my partition, which is going to go in here and hold the motor room in place, and ultimately it's going to hold the top in place. But that's not too bad. I've just got to put a bolt through the base and a piece of brass at the bottom, and it'll do a marvelous job, I think. So I'm just checking this out finally, and that's it. You probably noticed those holes I drilled into it, which is where the pump slots into it. I'm putting a piece of blue tack on top of here just to get an idea of the position of that bit of brass I just hot glued into the top. Everything's temporary. It's all about just getting the right position and the right place for the various components, and I want to know how high, where I have to grind the top of that. Now you can see I've put a thread in there, a couple of washers. Obviously I made it too short, and that's now going to hold the top on as well as everything else through that nice little piece of brass. And I turned down a little bolt to fit in there. This is the breather tube, all done, not quite wired up, but that looks very nice. Great using Perspex to do your plumbing. It makes life very easy. If I tried to solder those pieces of wire pieces of tube together, I'd have quite a difficult time. But just gluing them into that, and we're fine. And that's all it takes. It won't need anything else.